During all this time, you've been lied to about Real Madrid's situation, because what we're seeing isn't just a bad streak, it's the beginning of a historic fall. The white team is going through one of its worst crises in years, and the most serious part is that many still don't want to accept it. A president who no longer gets it right, coaches without authority, players who think they're bigger than the badge, refereeing decisions that always spark controversy, and a locker room torn apart by egos no one can control. Meanwhile, in every Clásico, the narrative tries to hold up, but on the pitch the story is different. Because even with everything going their way, Madrid has been outplayed, humiliated, and exposed. Knocked out by inferior teams, crushed by European giants, and completely unrecognizable in their style of play. And the worst part is that this isn't a coincidence. Today we're going to go over every defeat, every embarrassment, and the real culprits behind the most satisfying downfall European football has seen in recent years. Since the start of the season, Real Madrid was convinced this was their year. They came in hurt, wounded after a campaign where they won absolutely nothing and where Barcelona humiliated them in 4 consecutive Clásicos, something that left a mark on Madrid fans' pride. But then Mbappe arrived, the Galacticos signing, the promised savior, the player who was supposed to change history. And yes, he changed it, but for the worse. Because since his arrival, the team began to lose its identity, to break apart internally, to depend on individual brilliance, and to fill up with egos no one could control. All compounded by increasingly questionable sporting management that ended up creating the perfect scenario for disaster. But Madrid fans believed. They believed in the epic moments, in the mystique, in the Champions League anthem. They thought that, as always, something would happen, that history would be on their side. But reality was completely different. It all started at the Club World Cup, where Luis Enrique's PSG destroyed them with a resounding 4-0. A thrashing that wasn't just humiliating, but also left a clear message: this team was not ready to compete at the highest level. Florentino Perez put his faith in Xabi Alonso, a coach with ideas but without the weight to control a locker room full of stars. And although he managed a positive run against teams like Osasuna, Real Oviedo, Real Sociedad, Olympique de Marseille, and Espanyol, it was all an illusion. Because the first real blow came on the 27th of September 2025 at the Wanda Metropolitano, where Atlético de Madrid crushed them 5-2. Lenormand scored in the 14th minute, Alexander Sørloth at 45+3. Julian Alvarez scored in the 51st from the penalty spot, and again in the 64th from a free kick, and Griezmann closed the rout in the 94th minute. Madrid could only make the scoreline look slightly better, with goals from Mbappe and Arda Güler. It was a reality check, an absolute embarrassment that exploded across every media outlet, every debate show, and left Madrid fans shaken.
No tengo que aguantar que me saluden con la manita. Me da la gana.
Bebe agua.
Eso no listo. No, tú cállate, tú no sabes.
Bebe agua.
Es una Champions.
Un poquito de agua, hombre. Un poquito de agua, hombre. Un poquito de agua, hombre. Y yo, que
No, los haces en tus televisiones particulares.
Un poquito de agua.
Conmigo tú no haces eso.
Un poquito de agua. Te han metido 5.
Conmigo te busques
Te han metido 5, mozo. 5 te han metido. Te doy un poquito de agua. Un poquito de agua. Para que lo dijera, para que lo dijera.
Yo creo que no estoy para eso ni para tonterías.
Hoy no para tú. No, hoy no. Cuando tú ganas hay que aguantar tantito. Pero hoy no. Cuando tú quieres sí, pero hoy no. Hoy te aguantas. Que te han metido 5, monstruo. Que te han metido 5. Hoy te la come doblar. Hoy te la traga. Que te han metido 5. 5 te han metido. Ahora no, hoy no tienes tu ganita de cachondeo. Hoy no. Hoy hay que estar serio porque tú estás serio. Hoy estás serio porque tú estás serio. Y te han metido 5. Te han metido 5. ¿Sabes lo que tienes que hacer? ¿Sabes lo que tienes que hacer? Tragártela, monstruo. Tragártela, monstruo. Eso es. Tú vienes a hablar de fútbol. Nosotros venimos a hablar de waterpolo. Pero te han metido 5.
Even so, the team strung together a few wins that masked the situation, and then came El Clásico. A completely depleted Barcelona, without Rafinha, without Joan Garcia, without Robert Lewandowski, and with Lamine Yamal not fully fit. It was the perfect scenario for Madrid, and they took advantage of it. Mbappe opened the scoring in the 22nd minute, Fermín López equalised in the 38th, and just before half-time, in the 43rd minute, Jude Bellingham scored the decisive 2-1. The stadium exploded. It was total euphoria. They celebrated as if they had won the Champions League. They tasted revenge, mocked, and went after Yamal for his pre-match comments. But the worst came after the final whistle. Vinicius tried to confront and even hit the 8-year-old. Carvajal also went at him. Several players tried to gang up on him, all against a kid. That was their biggest mistake. Because that moment would mark the beginning of something much bigger. Because after that, Madrid returned to reality. In the Champions League, they went to the hell of Anfield and were embarrassing. Liverpool completely shut them down. Dominik Szoboszlai scored the only goal of the match, but the scoreline was flattering. Madrid didn't compete, didn't attack, didn't play at all. They looked like a small team on a big stage, where Courtois' interventions prevented a heavier defeat for the Reds. And from there, the collapse was total. Consecutive draws against Rayo Vallecano, Elche, and Girona at Montilivi confirmed that the problem wasn't just against big teams, it was against anyone. Not even a match with 4 goals from Mbappe against Olympiacos could hide the situation, as they won 3-4 inches, a chaotic game that reflected the team's total disorder. December was even worse. A loss to Celta de Vigo at the Bernabeu, 0-2 sealed in the final seconds, and another defeat at home against Guardiola's Manchester City, and Haaland the White Temple turned into a stage for humiliation. They tried to react with wins against Alaves, a hard-fought one against Talavera, and a controversial victory over Sevilla where Rodrigo should have been sent off. Yet Marcao do Nascimento ended up seeing red instead, decisions that only fueled the narrative even more.
Sí, sí, la carita colorada, claro que sí, la carita colorada, que es como se tienen que sentir los aficionados del Real Madrid una noche como la de hoy, con la cara colorada. Seguro que han sentido vergüenza cuando han visto el arbitraje de hoy a favor del Real Madrid otra vez. La no expulsión a Rodrigo es muy clara, y sin embargo, la facilidad para sacarle la segunda marcado. Y estoy convencido de que la gente del Bernabéu ha salido hoy con la cara colorada, que es como se tienen que sentir, avergonzado de que el árbitro les quiera ayudar de la forma que lo han hecho. Es tremendo, señores, es tremendo. Cago en la madre que me parió.
Then came the Super Cup. They advanced with controversy against Atletico de Madrid in Saudi Arabia and secured their spot in the final. This match featured Vinicius Jr exchanging words with Cholo Simeone during a substitution, where Simeone told him that Florentino Perez was going to sell him. Vinicius didn't stay silent and reported him to the referee. The controversy ignited. But in the final, Hansi Flick's Barcelona struck again 3-2 with a brace from Rafinha and a goal from Lewandowski. Another lost title, another blow to their pride. Barcelona lifted their second consecutive Spanish Super Cup against their biggest rival. And that's when everything exploded. After that match, the egos came to light. Mbappe took control, gave orders, imposed his authority even above the coach, influenced decisions, and led to the departure of Xabi Alonso, who ended up being fired when he still could have rebuilt the team. Arbeloa arrived as an improvised solution, sold as the new Zidane. But the reality was one of the biggest embarrassments in the club's recent history. Elimination from the Copa del Rey against Albacete, a second division team with backups, fighting to avoid relegation, and still they knocked out Real Madrid with a last-second goal for a final score of 3-2, a historic disgrace. 2 titles lost in less than 4 days, the league in danger, and the team completely broken. They tried to react again, wins against Levante, a rout over Monaco, a victory at La Ceramica against Villarreal, but it was all temporary. Because in the Champions League, Mourinho's Benfica crushed them 4-2 inches Portugal, including a goal from goalkeeper Anatolii Trubin in the 98th minute, a surreal image that perfectly sums up Madrid's season. And with that, they were out of the top 8, forced into the playoffs after having mocked Barcelona for being in that same situation. They got through that playoff against Benfica, yes, but with controversies that I'll tell you about later. And the fall continued. A 2-1 loss to Osasuna, a 1-0 defeat to Getafe at the Bernabeu. They eliminated a disastrous Manchester City in the Champions League round of 16, which doesn't cover anything up. And recently, they fell again to Mallorca with a thunderbolt from Vedat Muriqi in the final minute that left them 7 points behind league leaders Barcelona. And when it seemed like they couldn't fall any lower, the final blow arrived. Bayern Munich came to the Santiago Bernabeu and not only won 2-1, but left a feeling far worse than the result itself. Luis Diaz opened the scoring, Harry Kane doubled the lead, and Mbappe pulled one back to make a night that could have ended in a historic thrashing look slightly better. Because the reality is that Bayern showed mercy, missed clear chances, dominated the match from start to finish, and even then, Madrid only managed to stay alive thanks to more than questionable decisions from referee Michael Oliver, but not even that was enough to hide the truth. This Real Madrid was outplayed, overrun, and completely dismantled on the field in its own home. And now, there are no more excuses, no narrative left to sustain it. This Real Madrid doesn't intimidate, doesn't impose, doesn't compete. This Real Madrid is vulnerable, predictable, a broken team living off the past while the present exposes them match after match. What used to be respect is now mockery. What used to be fear is now opportunity. And for a club that proclaims itself the biggest in the world, that is simply a constant humiliation. But these defeats have names and last names. Let's start with the most controversial, the most provocative, and also the biggest complainer, Vinicius Jr. The Champions League playoff against Benfica wasn't just football, it was war. Vinicius scores a stunning goal in Lisbon and doesn't celebrate like everyone else. He runs to the corner flag, dances in a defiant way, shakes his shirt in front of 60,000 people, and makes gestures inciting the crowd. He looks at the fans, smiles, provokes them. The stadium is boiling, and then the chaos begins. Clash with Prestiani, insults. The cameras catch Vinicius saying, F, eyeing coward, twice, pushing, tension. Seconds later, the opposite version emerges that the Argentine allegedly called him a monkey several times. Mbappe states that he heard it 5 times.
Pero después ha metido su camiseta aquí para decir que Vini es un mono 5 veces. Yo lo escucho. Hay jugadores que lo han escuchado de Benfica también.
Mourinho does not back him in the press conference.
Yo a Vinicius en el campo yo le he dicho, tú marcas un gol de otro mundo. ¿Por qué celebras así? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué no celebras como celebraba Di Stefano, Pelé, Eusebio? ¿Por qué no celebras un gol solo con la alegría de seres un jugador de otro mundo?
The debate is there, but the question is no longer just what happened. The question is, why does it always happen with him? Because to truly understand what's happening with Vinicius today, you have to go back to 2019. Where it all began. Before being a Ballon d'Or contender, Vinicius was a meme. He arrived for 45 million at 16 years old. He could beat anyone off the dribble, but he finished like a nervous youth player. The press criticized him, the Bernabeu doubted him, and even inside the locker room there were whispers. The game was moving faster than his mind, until Ancelotti brought order to the chaos. He exploded in the 2021-2022 season, formed a partnership with Benzema, and scored the goal in the 14th Champions League final. The narrative was set. A decisive player, a European champion, a star on big nights. But the Ballon d'Or isn't just about club performance, and Vinicius was confident he would win the award. Then came the Copa America, where we all thought he would shine, but that wasn't the case. That's where the script changed with Brazil. He didn't have the same impact. He wasn't decisive. He didn't impose himself. He scored a brace against Paraguay, but in the big games he disappeared, and an unnecessary yellow card ruled him out of a key matchup. The narrative started to shift from clear favorite to a debated contender. When the Ballon d'Or shortlist was announced, and he finished second, the blow was more emotional than football-related. Real Madrid decided not to attend the ceremony, a political gesture, a clear message. And Vinicius responded with a statement that sounded like a challenge. I'll do it 10 times over if I have to. They're not ready. It sounded strong. It sounded proud. It sounded like the beginning of revenge. But the problem wasn't what he said, it was what came next. Because when you raise the bar with your words, your performance has to match it. And that invisible pressure started to weigh on him, and it would cost him dearly. And on the other hand, now it's time to talk about how the player with the biggest ego who arrived at this team to win everything and has won nothing is destroying the heart of Madrid, Kylian Mbappe. When Mbappe arrived at Real Madrid, he did so the way only the chosen ones do. A historic presentation. Thousands of people at the Bernabeu, a spectacle worthy of Cristiano Ronaldo. For Madrid fans, it was the beginning of a new era. For football, the ultimate signing. But Mbappe didn't just arrive with goals, he arrived with a pattern. From the very first match, the message was clear. The new Madrid revolved around him. The ball found him, the system adapted, roles changed, and the first to feel it was Vinicius Jr. The same player who, before Mbappe's arrival, had won La Liga, the Champions League, and held absolute protagonism, began to disappear. Less of the ball, less influence, less freedom. Madrid once again confused individual brilliance with collective balance. Mbappe scored, the stats exploded, but the team became disorganized. Everyone played for him. And when a team plays for just one player, it stops playing like a team. What had ended in rupture in Paris was just beginning in Madrid. While Real Madrid rebuilt their project around Mbappe, something very different was happening in Barcelona. Hansi Flick didn't think about how to stop Mbappe, he thought about something much smarter: how to expose him. Barca didn't go out to chase him, double him, or fear him, they went out to condition him. High defensive line, compact lines, a brave system, high tempo. The plan was simple and ruthless. Take away his space, force him to make quick decisions, and show him that without a team to support him, Mbappe is left alone. The first Clásico of 2024 at the Bernabeu was a tactical demonstration. Mbappe was caught offside again and again. Disallowed goals, frustrated runs, gestures of impotence. While he complained, Barca played. While he isolated himself, Barca combined. The result was historic, 4-0 at the Santiago Bernabeu. It wasn't just a thrashing, it was a conceptual humiliation. Because Barca didn't win by having better names, they won because they understood something Madrid ignored. A team will always beat an individual. That match marked the beginning of Real Madrid's internal collapse. The looks, the doubts, the questions in the locker room, and they all pointed to the same name, Kylian Mbappe Lotin. What came next wasn't an accident, it was a consequence. The 2024-2025 season turned into a nightmare for Real Madrid, not because of a lack of talent, but because of excessive dependence. Barcelona destroyed Madrid in all 4 Clásicos of the season. 4 matches, 4 defeats. First, the Spanish Super Cup. Mbappe scored, yes, but Barca tore apart Madrid's system and won 5-2. Then the Copa del Rey final. Mbappe scored again, but it was the same pattern. Another blow, a 3-2 loss, another title gone. Then the decisive League Clásico. Mbappe delivered a hat-trick. The headlines were about him, but Barca won 4-3 and secured the title. Mbappe had done his part: goals, numbers, records and ego, but Madrid won nothing. In the Champions League, the story was even more brutal. Madrid were eliminated by Arteta and Declan Rice's Arsenal, a structured, united, collective team. Everything Madrid was not. The season ended with a devastating image. Mbappe as top scorer, Golden Boot winner, and Real Madrid empty-handed. Galacticos 2-0 trophies. While Mbappe filled his personal stats, the most successful club in Europe was left with nothing. And in Barcelona, the message was clear. There was no need to stop Mbappe, just let him be Mbappe. In modern football, when a project fails, someone has to fall, and it's almost never the star. At Real Madrid, that someone was Carlo Ancelotti, a coach who just 2 years earlier had won 2 Champions Leagues in 3 seasons, a league title and several Super Cups. A respected, balanced manager used to handling locker rooms full of egos. But not even Ancelotti could hold together a team built around a single name. The season was a competitive disaster, lost Galacticos, titles slipping away, a divided locker room, and just as it had happened in Paris, the pattern repeated itself with surgical precision. Mbappe scored, the team became disorganized, the coach lost authority. When the decisions came, the club chose the familiar path: protect the player and sacrifice the coach. Ancelotti left not due to incompetence, not because of a lack of past results, but because the project had become uncoachable, exactly like at PSG. There, Tuchel fell, Pochettino fell, then Galtier, and now Ancelotti. Different names, same ending. Because when a club revolves around a single ego, the coach stops being in charge, and when the coach stops being in charge, the project is doomed. After everything we've seen, every humiliation, defeat, and embarrassment, the conclusion is inevitable: this Real Madrid didn't fall by chance. It wasn't bad luck or just a bad game. It was a downfall built from within. When a team stops being a team and turns into a group of egos, the ending is always the same. And that's where the names no one wants to point out come in. Vinicius Jr, more focused on provoking than playing, losing focus and becoming more of a problem than a solution. And Kylian Mbappe, the signing who was supposed to save Madrid, imposing his will, breaking the locker room, and acting like he's above the club without having won anything. Two figures, two egos, one broken team. Madrid stopped being great the moment its players tried to be bigger than the badge, and that always comes at a cost, and they're definitely paying for it. So if you want to keep seeing how the full truth comes out, how each person responsible for this downfall is analyzed one by one, make sure to leave a like right now, subscribe to Barça Cracks, and turn on notifications, because here, we don't just tell stories, we expose realities.